Welcome to the Dr. Mudgil podcast. This is episode 199. Before I kind of dive into the podcast, we record these podcasts on Thursdays, and the podcast comes out on Saturday. So Thursday is kind of like our big social media day where we do this and record some other content. But it just happens to be that today is September 11th, and it's a very somber day here, especially in New York. I was not in New York City, but I actually had just finished a rotation at Yale, and I think I came back maybe the day before September 11th, or maybe a couple of days before. And I remember just clicking on the TV in the morning, and at that point, one of the planes had crashed into one of the towers, and then while I was watching TV, I actually saw the second plane crashing into the second tower. I mean, it was just crazy day. It was originally being reported as an accident with the plane crashing into the first tower, obviously turned into a premeditated attack once that plane hit the second tower. And I can't believe it was 24 years ago. My wife, actually, this is actually before I even met my wife. I met her the next year. She was living in the city, so she was doing her periodontal residency program at NYU. And, she has, just the day is obviously very vivid for her as well, particularly because she was on the island of Manhattan. Anyways, first and foremost, thoughts and prayers to all who still are, feeling the residual effects of that horrible day. Amazingly, New York is just an incredible place. It's, humans are incredible. And just the resilience of the New Yorkers and all the other folks who are affected, by this horrible tragedy. It always gives me hope and warms my heart. So as dark as that day was, and this day is always a reminder of that, said humans are survivors, and it's just amazing how resilient folks are and continue to be. So that's just on the forefront of my mind. I'm going to skip the usual pleasantries talking about what's been going on here in New York, because I think that's really what is going on in New York today. So getting into the content of this podcast, it's been a weird week in general. Lots of sad, crazy things have been happening, and just to mention a few, just anyone who watches the news, there's been a lot of sort of sad darkness. That poor Ukrainian refugee in Charlotte who was, finishing up her shift at a pizza place, got on the train and was just, coldlessly, just murdered for no reason. I mean, I don't think there was a reason. It doesn't seem like there was any sort of reason. The assassination of Charlie Kirk, whether you agree with his politics or not, just is insane. What happened yesterday with his assassination. Lots of really sad stuff has been going on. And, I've talked about it in one of my other podcasts that, negativity just always, you hear it so much more than positivity. I'm going to lighten things up a little bit. But one of the things that was going viral last weekend on social media was this Phillies Karen situation where there were some Philly fans at a Florida Marlins game, and Harrison Bader hit a homer, and the Phillies fans were kind of scrambling for the ball. It kind of landed in this area where no one was sitting, but there were some Philly fans that were sitting behind that area where the ball landed. And there was a guy who was there with his family sitting a couple of rows away, but he was scrambling for the ball, and he ended up getting the ball, giving it to his son, whose birthday it was, and it was like a birthday present for his son. And then some crazed lady came over and started yelling at the guy and poking him in the shoulder and making a big scene about it, and he just ended up diffusing the situation by giving this crazed woman the ball. And obviously everyone was booing her, and I think kind of rightly so. But that all went viral. I mean, it was a happy ending. The Florida Marlins were very, very gracious and gave the boy and his sister a bunch of swag, and he actually ended up getting to meet Harrison Bader. He got a signed bat and I'm sure a ball and all kinds of stuff after the game. So it all ended up fine, but the video of this woman, basically making a big stake and, I don't know. I mean, stealing the ball is kind of not the right term here, but she made such a big stink that the dad, exasperated, gave her the ball. So that video went viral on social media, and it was all over the place. And I think it happened Saturday, I think it happened Saturday. As you've heard me say many times over, the most important part of any anti-aging skin regimen is using a proper sunscreen, namely one that's at least an SPF 30 and contains titanium or zinc or both. I couldn't be more excited to announce the launch of these two amazing Dr. Mudgil brand sunscreens. One is tinted, one is non-tinted, depending on what your preference is. I also have an amazing hydrating and moisturizing serum, which your skin is absolutely going to love. There's a link in the description below, which you can click to check out the products. You are going to love them as much as I do. So my whole social media feed was Philly's Karen, and there's all this stuff about her, all these videos about her. But then slowly, as the weekend went on, all of these other videos started populating my social media platforms, of folks catching a ball and giving it to the kid sitting next to them, or and I saw tons of that, which was very beautiful to see. And at the U.S. Open, I think it was the U.S. Open Finals, a gentleman caught a tennis ball and gave it to the boy sitting in front of him. There was a lot of really heartwarming videos, and really the Philly's Karen thing kind of disappeared from my social media. I guess because I was watching all of these positive videos, and I just saw tons more of these positive interactions between fans. Where a little boy caught a ball and he gave it to this cute little girl sitting next to him. All of these really heartwarming, wonderful videos, and it really had me thinking. Just about all of this craziness in our world. There's a quote by Martin Luther King that I love, and the quote is, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." And I love that quote. It's just so true. I mean, just think about it in literal terms. If it's pitch black, more dark, you can't have anything more dark than that. But a little sliver of light is enough for you to kind of navigate pitch darkness. A little light from your phone or whatever, just the tiniest bit of light, the tiniest ounce of light can help you navigate absolute pitch darkness. And it's the same thing with hate and love. Love is so powerful. A tiny little drop of love can diffuse an entire bucket of hate. And it is so true. And it had me thinking of all of these horrible things that we see and read about, and we see on the news, and we read about in the newspaper, because negativity, it's much louder than positivity and heartwarming stories. But positivity, just love is so much more powerful than hate. Positivity is just so much more powerful than negativity. And in this world where we're just bombarded with all of this negative stuff, kind of talking about that, Philly's Karen going viral situation, there's so many more of those other videos where something beautiful happens. It's a beautiful interaction where someone catches a ball and gives it to a kid sitting next to them, and all of these amazing, loving, human, warm moments. They're so much more prevalent than the negative stuff that we see. And those positive interactions are so much more powerful. That, that's the stuff that we should be focusing on. Love is so much more powerful than hate. Light is so much more powerful than darkness. Positivity is so much more powerful than negativity. And, it's a mindset thing. That's the things that we all, especially, with all this crazy stuff happening in the world, that's the stuff that we need to focus on. Light, love, and positivity, because that's what it's all about. That's what humans actually are all about. That's what we're so much more about than hate, darkness, and negativity. And that's what's been on my mind this week. And I hope your weekend is filled with light, is filled with love, is filled with positivity. And I hope that fuels you to just crush the week ahead. I think that's all I got to say. Let's get it.